Today with a high near 51. Tonight cloudy with a low around 40. And Saturday sunny with a high around 53. Spice up your meals with Vinaigrette's exquisite flavors. Unleash creativity in your kitchen using premium extra virgin and olive oils, balsamic vinegars, and more. A family-owned haven since 2009. Find Vinaigrette at 50th and Xerxes in Minneapolis or explore their offerings at vinaigrettemn.com. Elevate your dishes with Vinaigrette.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, in the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in the nighttime hours, 1150 AM, KKNW in Seattle. It's the Matt McNeil Show for your Friday. Good to have you with us today. Guest-free this hour, Michael Broadcorp in the 4 to talk some sports. Patrick, how are we today? Everything going hunky-dory here?
Everything is going great over here at the station. I feel probably the best I have since I got back from Japan in terms of my jet lag. So
how hard was that? Was it pretty tough?
It was a lot harder being back than it was going there. And I was talking to Chad about it a little bit earlier, the Grand Poobah here at AM 950, that it's a little bit harder when you're going away from the sun, which flying east, you fly through the night, you come back to daylight, and that's kind of harder than flying west with the daylight.
Mm-hmm. I would say so. And I mean, you also are going, it's quite a few hours difference here.
Yeah, 14 hours difference.
Wow. The, my mother used to be a trends buyer for a major department store chain. And she had to fly occasionally to India. That's directly 12 hours on the opposite side. And she said it took 2 days to you'd land and you just had to take 2 days to kind of get set and going because it is just such an obnoxious thing. Basically, you're becoming a night shift person, for lack of a better way to say it. And then you have to come back and do the opposite. Say, well, I'm glad it's well. I am of the mindset though, but I'm a wuss ball, dude. I'll like go one time zone. I'll like go to the Eastern time zone. I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. What happened to me?
Yeah, it's so weird. When I go east and it'll be 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, why aren't there any sports on? Because they don't start till 8.
It's like, you got games that start at 10 p.m. What are you, sycophants? What do you know? Don't do that. It was a little bit easier. It was, when I went out to San Francisco earlier this year, it was a little bit easier because it'd be like 7 o'clock, but it'd be, bright sunshine. It was 5 o'clock there and it'd be like, oh, this piece of cake. And also San Francisco is just a fun town, man. I mean, it depends on the place. I mean, if you're stuck out in Topeka, and nothing against the fine folks in Topeka, but you're stuck in Topeka. I mean, that's a little bit of a rough start there, but I have friends that do business travel and they send me photos of the hotels they're staying in and they travel into rural America because they work on like the ag sector. And it's like, here's my picture of my hotel room. And every one of them is just like a field. or there's the interstate. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of rough, man. But if you have something, you have fun things to look at. There you go. Well, glad you're feeling better. I hope everyone's having a good time. It's a good time of year. And it's November. I know November gets a bad rap, especially since we try to skip right past Thanksgiving, which for the folks in Seattle and Chicago, you may not know, I am not a fan of that. Thanksgiving is such an absolutely awesome holiday. I mean, Chicago knows because of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, man. That was one of the best movies ever made. One of the best movies. We watch it every Thanksgiving. Love that movie. Thanksgiving is just a great holiday. And this whole, okay, put the pumpkins away. It's time for a Christmas tree. God, let November breathe. And we're in a prime time right now. We're not getting the really nasty weather yet. It's relatively nice out. You can generally get away with a light sweatshirt. And sure, you got to do a little leaf cleanup, but I love it. November is not a bad month. Underrated month, November. I hope you have a good weekend, no matter what you're up to. I hope you have a good time out there. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Well, the crime blotter has a chock full of one here. Officials arrested 4 people in California this week after state investigators said they committed insurance fraud by claiming an animal damaged their vehicles when in reality it was someone wearing a bear costume. Okay. Los Angeles area resident Ruben Tamarzian Erit Chirkian Vey, I'm not even going to try that last name, and Alifa Zuckerman were all charged with insurance fraud and conspiracy to connection to the reported scam, the State Department of Insurance reported. The state agency's investigation began after an insurance company suspected fraud early this year. According to the news release, the suspects told their insurance company the bear entered a 2010 Rolls-Royce Ghost and caused interior damage to the vehicle on January 28th at Lake Arrowhead, an unincorporated community on the San Bernardino Mountains, the release said. The suspects also provided video footage of the insurance company, which showed the alleged bear in the vehicle, according to the news release. Upon further scrutiny of the video, the investigation determined the bear was actually a person in a bear costume. They actually gave them the evidence. Detectives found 2 more insurance claims with 2 different insurance companies from the suspects with the same date of loss in the same location. The release continues. Each claim claimed the 2 vehicles, a 2015 Mercedes G63 AMG and a 2020 Mercedes E350. And the suspects also allegedly used a bear costume to make it look like a bear also entered and damaged those vehicles. Was it walking on 2 feet when it went into the car? Did it actually get in the car seat and like put the seatbelt on like it's going to drive?
Roar, I am a grizzly, very fierce.
Very. It's the Bears, man. You got to watch out for those guys. The toughest gang in town. To prove it was not actually a bear in the video, the state agency had a biologist from the Department of Fish and Wildlife of California review 3 bear videos. The biologist investigators reported determined it was clearly a human in a bear suit. was it like a yogi suit? So it had a tie on?
These folks were definitely not smarter than the average bear.
Nicely done, Patrick. There you go. Nicely done. Detectives then obtained a search warrant and during the search of the suspect's home found, guess what? A bear costume. Officials arrested all 4 suspects on Wednesday. According to the release, the insurance company has lost nearly $142,000 due to the fraud allegedly committed by the suspects. The Glendale Police Department and the California Highway Patrol assisted in the State Department of Insurance in the case. The San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office is prosecuting the case. San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office jail records did not have the suspects listed before Thursday, pending court dates, blah, 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 blah. There you go. Do not, whatever you do not do the bear costume. If you do a duck costume, send me that. I mean, just for my enjoyment. A duck got into the car and caused $100,000 worth of damage, and it's clearly a human being in a duck costume. Oh God, that would make my day. These are the light things that cheer me up here. So 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. So let's just dive on into the ugliness that is, this. It was nice today. I got to take some time to got a cup of coffee. I mean, I'm going to encourage you to get out there and talk to your friends and see friends and actually get face-to-face conversation. There is a fantastic social media person. She was on Twitter mainly, Peril and Pink, Gina. And I've known her. She lives here in the Twin Cities metro area. I kind of got in touch with her and said, hey, let's grab coffee. We did. It was just so nice to be able to just sit down face-to-face with someone and just talk about this and get blah. I'm going to highly encourage you to do that. Try to get some time with other human beings. Try to get out of your house. How about I say it like that? Just try to get out of your house. If that's going to a movie, I think, what is it? Red One opens up this weekend. That's the Chris Pratt and Dwayne The Rock Johnson Christmas movie they're going to be putting out here. Chris Evans, I think it is. Chris Evans is the one on that one. So you got that. You can go see a movie. You can go see. I mean, it's kind of a plethora of sports town. I mean, Seattle and in Chicago, you got probably multiple options there. Especially even with the colleges, go try something out like that. Go out to a new restaurant. Try to get together with somebody. We got to break out of this cycle because this is doom scrolling at this point. I mean, the news cycle is just chock full of insanity. But we can't just quit. We can't just give up. It's interesting. I was talking to this person on social media before I blocked them. And this person I was talking about, it had to do in regards to the kind of in regards to the fact that, there's a lot of people for a lot of people who have gone on out there and, have made the point. It's like, this is tough on people that are trying to support these marginalized communities, to watch the marginalized communities vote this last election to continue to keep themselves marginalized. And, it's very hard and somewhat discouraging. And I had two interactions today. And this was the first one was in kind of relation to a post I made yesterday, wearing Trump's deportation brown shirts, these ICE guys that they're looking forward to. And it sounds like they're wrapping up to the day after he's inaugurated, starting to knock on doors. They're starting to wrap up in your community. Please remember, you voted for that. You did. They held up mass deportations now signs at the convention. You can't imply you didn't know what was coming when you voted for Trump. And this is in regards to the story yesterday I talked about in regards to Dearborn, Michigan, and in the Twin Cities as well, where minority groups showed a lot of support for Trump. And, he wasn't hiding what his agenda is. And this guy, Scooter McFarland, got out in touch with me, and he did make a very valid point, because there are some people that responded to this, which are like, good luck getting rounded up, or all your best on that. It's like, no, it's not nice. See, I think the mass deportation is bad, even if they voted it a way I didn't like. Gleefully watching this happen, as some of the other responses to this post implied, really makes me wonder how many people actually care. And I came back with I think it shakes people to feel like they're working to help a marginalized community, only see a large portion of the marginalized community vote to keep themselves marginalized. That would be the source of frustration you're seeing. And I stand by that. I think that's a fair assessment. Then he came back and he says to me, I understand where the frustration comes from, but that doesn't make it right. It's also an assumption, but I'll go out on a limb here, that say most of them think working to help the marginalized community involved voting and complaining on social media and nothing else. Somewhat fair. I mean, it might be cold, but I think it, for a lot of people, it is true that they're not out there trying to help some of these marginalized communities. But I actually made the point here. It's like, at least it was something. Here's my response. Well, if you're right, then the good news is most people will no longer be giving lip service to marginalized communities, because thanks to that vote we just had, most of us are about to become a far more marginalized community. So even the communities that weren't nearly as marginalized are about to become pretty freaking marginalized. And so if you're upset because you're people are you feel like, they're not supporting your group, well, it's Trump all-out warfare against all of us. And women and pregnant women and the LGBTQ IA plus community, and the Latino community, the Hispanic community, the Muslim community, the Native American community. All of them are the disabled community. I've had multiple people point out the disabled community. The Republicans desperately want to cut all the government aid to the disabled community. It's kind of like this other guy posted. He said, you seem to be enjoying this. I said, of course I'm not. But I still support these marginalized communities. But as of right now, we got an American fascist, and all we can do is sit back and watch, because we can't stop this from happening. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950, here to tell you about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If your home was hit with the most recent storms, trust the most well-reviewed exterior construction company, Snap Construction, for a free home inspection.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. There are a lot of great construction companies in town. My advice is to take your time and do your research. Make sure they are locally owned and that they guarantee their craftsmanship for life. Also, you want to find a company that's been in business for at least 10 years. You want to work with a company that's going to be there long after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims, and we'll help you through the process.
Don't go with the out-of-town fly-by-night contractor. Most storm damage goes missed by the untrained eye. Trust Snap Construction for your free storm damage evaluation. For your free storm damage evaluation, call Snap Construction at 612-333-SNAP or visit them online at snapconstruction.com. That's 612-333-SNAP or snapconstruction.com.
Hey, this is Ellie Krug with Ellie 2.0 Radio. Did you know that we've been doing this show for 6 years on AM 950? And it's one of the only, I think it may be the only show about idealism in all of Radioland. And now the show's at 4 o'clock on Saturdays and still from 1 to 2 on Sundays. It'll be part of a new concept, a series of LGBTQ hosted shows and podcasts. Make sure to check it out.
Eat Local Minnesota is a great way to find locally owned Minnesota restaurants and food purveyors. You'll find high-quality food and unique eating experiences with dishes from around the world. Just visit eatlocalminnesota.com for your next meal. Crooner Supper Club invites you to Maggie's Lounge, an exciting new bar lounge. It's open Wednesdays through Sundays beginning at 4:30 for cocktails and light fare. And you don't need a ticket to enjoy the great atmosphere of Maggie's. So stop by Crooner Supper Club off Moore Lake and Highway 65 for dinner, drinks, and live music from both big-name local and national artists. Cafe Latte combines a cafe dining experience with gourmet quality food. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, weekdays at 5 p.m. On our show, you'll hear about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. Weekly correspondents like Dr. Stately, State Senator Mary Kunesh, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake update us with the latest news from Turtle Island. Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Listen weekdays at 5 p.m. or watch the show on Native Roots Radio social media accounts. Ho-wah!
It's the Matt McNeil Show. Good to have you with us here on a Friday. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Speaker Mike Johnson says he'll ask the House Ethics Committee to not release the potentially damaging report on the conduct of former Representative Matt Gaetz, President-elect Trump's Attorney General nominee. I'm going to give credit to Sarah up on Threads. She makes this point. If the report was going to say Gaetz is cleared of all charges, he himself would be demanding that they release it. Clearly, that's not what it says. Word. Absolutely. If this exonerated him, every single Republican would be demanding this report get released. The fact that they are doing everything in their power to not have this report released tells you everything about what that report says. 100%. 100%. Johnson said making the report public would set a terrible precedent. You know, finding out if the Attorney General has basically been having sex with underage kids and transferring across state lines and, you know, drinking with them and assorted other things. He's demonstrating how far he's willing to go to help Trump's nominees, basically. So, and once again, we may need to make sure we understand this. Christian boy, Speaker Johnson, Mr. My religion is so important. He knows what's in that. He knows what's in there. And he's choosing to protect Matt Gaetz as opposed to actually do the Christian thing. Indeed. Gaetz resigned from the House on Wednesday, a move that would typically disband the Ethics Committee investigation, but senators from both parties have said they want to see the panel's findings as they prepare to consider whether to confirm Gaetz. I'm going to strongly request that the Ethics Committee not issue the report because that is not the way we do things in the House, and I think it'd be a terrible precedent to set. You know, finding out if somebody is having sex with underage kids. You know, we can't let reputation like that get destroyed. Johnson said, as he first reported by Politico, Johnson's comments are a notable pivot from his previous stance that he does not wade into ethics committees matters. But now, because the other side needs my help. In June, the ethics panel officially confirmed its probe into Gaetz as it picked up where the Justice Department left off in some of its investigations. The committee said at the time that the scope of investigations had changed, expanding to look at new claims, such as whether Gaetz tried to obstruct the inquiry while dropping others, such as allegations he misused campaign funds. Gaetz has denied any wrongdoing and alleged the probe was reopened by former Speaker Kevin McCarthy as a form of retaliation against Gaetz's efforts to oust McCarthy from leadership. When asked about the report, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries told reporters, I think it was Justice Brandeis who once said that the sunlight is best the disinfectant in democracy. Transparency is always the best course of action, particularly when it relates to high-ranking government officials. But Jeffries declined to go further, saying he's not going to get out ahead of Ethics Committee ranking member Susan Wild, the Democrat from Pennsylvania. Trump's decisions to select Gates, a staunch ally and polarizing figure of the House, sent shockwaves through Congress, with his ethics critics arguing the allegations should disqualify him. Republicans in the House Ethics Committee met on Thursday, but it remains unclear whether they will vote to release their findings. It should be noted that there is a lawyer who has come forward, and I haven't looked too much into this because generally it hasn't been included in any what I would consider to be mainstream accounts. It's just stuff that I'm seeing that's getting out there. But apparently there is a lawyer who represents the the high school child involved in this case. And not only does he say, yeah, indeed, this involves an underage high school kid, but he says that there are multiple witnesses to the activity as well. And we should remember, take a step back, that Kavanaugh, we found out and chalk this up to the list of things that we will never actually get any kind of legitimate justice resolution on because of the way the freaking vote went last week. We found out only a few months ago that the FBI never really did an investigation into the allegations against Justice Kavanaugh. That the people who knew what had happened were all expecting a phone call from the FBI. We're all expecting a phone call from the Senate, all expecting this, and they never did anything. They never followed up. They never did anything. But then the Senate Republicans all claimed, see, we've figured it all out, that we know what happened here. This is just it. That is not, there was no investigation. And it's pretty clear Kavanaugh was a pretty bad guy back in college and probably should have negated him from being on the Supreme Court. But now, once again, here we are. And I want to make sure the go-to insult for Republicans today of the left is to call them pedophiles. That's the go-to insult. That's the worst thing that they can call you in their mind. You're a bunch of pedos. Ugh. That's what they say. You talk about gay rights, you talk about drag queen story hour, you talk about transgender people, they all scream this. And they've been screaming it for 4 years. And here you actually have a man who is being considered to be the Attorney General of the United States of America, who apparently has, and once again, I'm going to go and back up the observation from Sarah, that if there was nothing there, he himself would be demanding the report get released. The reason he resigned before the report was released is because he knew it would be damaging. Here is a guy who is accused of, and it sounds like there is, at least there are some accounts of a lawyer saying indeed that this actually did happen, of a grown man having relations with a high school kid. And there's witnesses. And this is not the only allegation against him in this realm. And yet, the same... Think about Johnson. Think about all his hokey gear. Here's a picture of me at my church. Here's the cross. Look at me. I'm a God-fearing man. And look at the speaker. Because this is going to come on out. Let's just be honest. And I would give credit to Susan Wild, the lead Democrat on the Ethics Committee, if she just walked to the floor and said, I'm going to read this into the record. I'm going to read this into the record, and I'm not going to yield until I've read it into the record. And, read it into the record and basically be done with it. And we're going to find out. And all of a sudden, Speaker Johnson is going to insist, I had no idea that that's what that ethics report, as the Speaker of the House, which he has access to all this information, he's going to insist, I had no idea it was that horrible and heinous. Oh boy, waggy, waggy finger time. Waggy, 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 waggy. Yeah. The guy is a weirdo, man. Gates is a weirdo. I do like how Colbert keeps pulling out the Botox photo of him, which is, he kind of looks like an absolutely about to lose it SpongeBob. the photo, his eyes and facial features seem to be a lot smaller on his face. It's the man in the moon there. And there you go, with a huge ass forehead. 952-946-6205. More on the Trump cabinet when we come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
It's Brad Friedman, your friendly investigative blogger, journalist, and host of the Bradcast on AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Spring and summer is the right time to install your fireplace. Find your perfect fireplace and have it installed and ready before the cold weather hits again. If you already have a wood fireplace, consider a fireplace insert or check out the entire selection at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces on East Franklin and Riverside in Minneapolis. It will transform your inefficient fireplace into a reliable, environmentally smart heating system.
This is Peter Solak, owner of Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Have you ever watched your dog or cat curl up in front of a fire? It's primordial, the way it touches both the animal and the human. We know that fire reaches deep into the heart and soul. Let us show you how. We have over 35 working units on display here in Minneapolis. We are located at the east end of Riverside Avenue at 2901 East Franklin. From I-94, take the Riverside Avenue exit. Find us also online at woodlandstoves.com. Let us help you make a fireplace part of your life.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Hi, my name is Katty from Minnesota Recovery Connection.
And I'm Erin with Minnesota Recovery Connection.
We'd like you to listen to our show, Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution. It is on Saturdays at 10 a.m. on AM 950.
On the show, we discuss topics about addiction, understanding substance use disorder, the many pathways to recovery, and finding your personal journey.
Listen to Redefining Recovery Saturdays at 10 a.m. and find our podcast on your favorite app.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 51, tonight cloudy with a low around 40, and Saturday sunny with a high around 53. Spice up your meals with Vinaigrette's exquisite flavors. Unleash creativity in your kitchen using premium extra virgin and olive oils, balsamic vinegars, and more. A family-owned haven since 2009. Find Vinaigrette at 50th and Xerxes in Minneapolis or explore their offerings at vinaigrettemn.com. Elevate your dishes with Vinaigrette.
Broadcasting in the nights at WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. In the nighttime hours, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. And, of course, in the afternoons on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show for your Friday, 952-946-6205. So, let us dive into more of the cabinet of oddities that is the Trump administration. Here's another winner. Now, I would say Pete Hegseth, who, by the way, like I said, and I stand by this assessment, I wouldn't put that idiot in charge of a spoon, let alone the Department of Defense. But yeah, they're thinking about it, but he might not make it all the way there. His transition team has scrambled yesterday after Trump's incoming chief of staff, Susie Wiles, was presented with an allegation that former Fox and Friends co-host Pete Hegseth, Trump's nominee to be the defense secretary, had engaged in sexual misconduct. According to two sources, Wiles was briefed Wednesday night about an allegation that Hegseth had acted inappropriately with a woman. One of the sources, he said, the alleged incident took place in Monterey, California in 2017. According to the transition source, the allegation is serious enough that Wiles and Trump's lawyers spoke to Hegseth about it on Thursday. A source with knowledge of the meeting said that Hegseth said the allegation stemmed from a consensual encounter and characterized the episode as he said, she said. Now, once again, so he is basically saying, oh, yeah, I was actually having sex at this thing. That's what she's saying. You know, clang, clang, clang goes a trolley, you know. But, you know, so that is, so but the story is saying that he is admitting, yep, slept with a person over in Monterey. On Thursday evening, Hegseth's lawyer, Timothy Parlatore, well, Tim said the allegation was already investigated by the Monterey Police Department and they found no evidence for it. Trump's communication director, the jackass, said President Trump is nominating high-caliber, extremely qualified candidates to serve in his administration. Mr. Hegseth, who has vigorously denied any and all accusations and no charges were filed. We look forward to his confirmation, the United States Secretary of Defense, so he can get started on day one to make America safe and great again. Well, unless you're a woman at a Monterey. Well, never mind, I guess. Allegedly. Ahead of the Thursday meeting, one high-level MAGA member with the allegation said Hegseth wasn't properly scrutinized before Trump made the controversial pick. You think? Get me TV man. Make TV man the Secretary of Defense. That was basically the entire screening process. He was not vetted, the source said, but the senior transition source disputed this. Hegseth was vetted, but this alleged incident didn't come up. So you're saying you're incompetent at vetting. It's one of the two, man. Trump shocked the political military worlds on November 12th when he nominated the idiot Hegseth to see the Pentagon. Hegseth already faces a bumpy road to Senate confirmation. The 44-year-old cable news personality and Army veteran has a history of making incendiary statements. Hegseth once called liberals domestic enemies who want trans, lesbian, black females to run everything. In 2018, when he was a potential appointee to run the Department of Veterans Affairs, it was reported that he began an affair, had a child with a Fox producer while still married to a second wife. He married the producer. Does the producer know about Monterey? Just asking. One Hegseth ally blamed the surfacing of the sexual misconduct allegation on GOP establishment members who are trying to thwart Hegseth's nomination. They'll try to kill all these nominations before the confirmation vote, the ally said. I will say this, that the stupid things this idiot has said. Hegseth is an idiot. He's a moron. Tell him I said hi. Thanks for listening. Hegseth is a complete and total moron and waste of skin, frankly. But it's two things he actually did in regards to the military, which in my mind negate him from any consideration for this. Number one is he himself took it upon himself to get a pardon for a deranged psychopath who, while in the military, posed with a dead body and then came to light that he had also shot a child and an elderly man without cause and was in jail. But Pete Hegseth, he went out and championed the guy that posed with the dead body as a real American hero. Yep. The other one is that he has compared veterans getting their hard-earned benefits to welfare queens mooching off the government and that they shouldn't be getting any benefits whatsoever. I want to repeat that one. As a veteran myself, let me repeat that because there are tons of veterans, I guarantee you in Chicago, I guarantee you in Seattle, and of course here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, there are a ton of veterans who need those benefits, who have earned every benefit they've gotten. And as I've often said, and I said on Veterans Day, they deserve more benefits. And this guy has said military personnel receiving the benefits they so rightly earned are they comparing to just welfare queens and that they don't deserve them. Those two things alone should negate him from being in charge of a spoon, let alone the Department of Defense. A spoon. Yeah, he's horrible. He is horrible. But by far, I think what could possibly be the worst pick is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Now, mind you, okay, President-elect Trump nominating RFK Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services on Thursday, if confirmed, the agency that oversees the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Food and Drug Administration, the National Institute of Health, would run by a vaccine skeptic who has repeatedly pledged to overhaul the nation's health standards. Here are some of Kennedy's sweeping ideas for the country during Trump's second term. Removing fluoride from drinking water. Kennedy has pledged that the upcoming Trump administration will advise all U.S. water systems to remove fluoride from public water, claiming the mineral is industrial waste linked to arthritis, bone fractures, bone cancer, IQ loss, neurodevelopmental disorders, and thyroid disease. You know, IQ loss, dude, no, that's the brain worm in your head. That is not true at levels recommended by the Environmental Protection Agency that were lowered in 2015. The National Institutes of Health outlined some of the health risks of excessive exposure to fluoride at higher levels, which can lead to rare side effects. The National Institute of Health said that some evidence showed excessive exposure led to lower IQ in children, but cited experts as saying the evidence was weak and methodologically flawed. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention said there is no convincing evidence linking adverse health effects to fluoride intake at recommended amounts. Fluoride is a naturally occurring mineral. It's not an industrial waste. It's a natural occurring mineral that's been added to much of the nation's drinking water for decades, as it has been proven to dramatically reduce tooth decay. A 2017 study also found that fluoridation program saves Americans more than $6 billion in dental costs. Fluoridation has proven so successful that the CDC listed as one of the 10 greatest public health achievements in the 20th century, alongside vaccination and recognition of tobacco as a health hazard. While Trump has expressed support for Kennedy's stance, the president does not have the ability to ban fluoride in all public drinking water, which is under local, not federal purview. What I will say is this. I find it hilarious that this clown car basically wants to stop fluoride being in water. Meanwhile, the same administration is going to dramatically increase the amount of fertilizer that can be in water. So as they insist, we got to get fluoride, which is not a poison and has actually saved us quite a bit of money, out of the water system, they in turn are going to turn probably 70 to 80% of the tap water in rural America into poison they can't drink or shower with or anything like that. Yeah, that's pretty stupid. I mean, I don't know if you've seen any studies of the high fertilizer rates in drinking water in the groundwater system, which is actually poisoned rural America. But there are places where the cancer rates are out of freaking control because of fertilizer. And these guys, as they say, fluoride's the problem, are going to make sure you get extra fertilizer in your daily intake. Wow. Kennedy is one of the nation's leading skeptics in vaccines, spreading conspiracy theories and junk science while claiming no vaccine is safe and effective. He is the founder of the anti-vaccine group Children's Health Defense and has peddled debunked claims that inoculations cause autism. Kennedy has also linked federal vaccination programs to the Holocaust. Wow. All of those statements have been rejected by career health officials who point to vaccines' efficiency to eradicate smallpox, preventing millions of deaths with transmissible diseases like measles, and see the rates of polio fall 99% since 1988, according to the World Health Organization. Trump himself couldn't single-handedly ban a vaccine, although he could exert pressure on federal agencies that approve them, and installing Kennedy as the head of the agency that oversees the CDC and the NIH has worried health officials. Kennedy has insisted he has not specifically called for the end of vaccination and has pledged not to ban them, but his longstanding claims that federal officials have muddied safety data has troubled health officials. He's going to get rid of them. And by the way, what's going to happen here is in 2 or 3 years, when measles cases are skyrocketing in the United States, and will any journalist have the guts to ask him, well, what is the cases of autism? Now that we don't have mandatory vaccinations, the cases of autism should be dramatically decreasing. And when they say, no, they aren't, this is just a really stupid way and a real deadly way to prove that a bunch of freaking celebrities don't have the damn slightest idea what the hell they're talking about. He has vowed to change America's food. We talked about this yesterday. Kennedy has made broad pledges to remove processed food from school lunches and limit the use of food dyes. He recently went on MSNBC to lambaste colorful breakfast cereals, asking Why do we have Fruit Loops in the country that have 18 or 19 ingredients? You can go get Canada and they have 2 or 3. Actually, that's not correct. Fruit Loops in Canada have a similar number of ingredients to those sold in the United States, but Canada has limited the use of certain food dyes. Regardless, the FDA says the artificial food dyes it's approved of are safe based on totally scientific evidence. I guarantee the food industry is not going to have a lot of success. There is one thing I will say here. Most of the American food that's sold in American stores, they can't sell it in other countries. They have to change the ingredients because we do tolerate some things which other countries have deemed to be a little too more dangerous. But I guarantee you the cash cow that is the United States food industry is not going to sit back and allow this guy to take away their bread and butter. I guarantee you that. He's also attacked Trump's own diet, saying the stuff that he eats is really like bad. Campaign food is always bad, but that food has to go in that airplane is like, it's just poison. Kennedy recently told a reporter he believes the entire Department of Food and Drug Administration have to go. He specifically called out the nutrition department at the agency, claiming experts were not doing their job and not protecting our kids. He went on to say he would root out unidentified corruption at federal agencies. Kennedy has also espoused the benefits of raw milk against government advice. As a matter of fact, it's very dangerous to drink raw milk. The FDA warns the product, which is not pasteurized, has often been linked to outbreaks of illness. He said last month other items in his sites include aggressive suppression of psychedelics, stem cells, raw milk, all these things. He's basically going off of his own web searches. And then finally, he wants to go wild on health. In the waning days of his campaign, Trump said he would endow Kennedy with the ability to go wild on health as part of his vision of making America great and healthy again, included a broad pledge to in charge of women's health. Wow, the size and the potential of his role at the HHS will be put many other facets of everyday life under his purview, with many questions about how he will act as Republicans continue to target access to abortion, health care for transgender youth, and the Affordable Care Act. We have a generational opportunity to bring together the greatest minds in science, medicine, industry, and government to put an end to the chronic disease epidemic, Kennedy wrote on Thursday. I will provide Americans with transparency and access to all the data so they can make informed choices themselves and their families. He is not going to bring in these people. Let's make sure we understand something about RFK Jr. He's going to bring in the people that back up what he says is true. And he's going to vilify anyone that dares to not agree with him. Because this is not about making America healthier again. This is about proving me to be the big boy right guy. This is a guy who, when he saw a bear carcass on the side of the road, pulled over and put it into his car. He cut off the head of a whale. He was having an affair just recently while on the campaign and didn't think anyone would notice this sort of thing. He's an absolute freaking idiot. And yeah, we are going to have a lot of the day-to-day impact of us. This guy is going to have a tremendous amount of ability to do some serious freaking damage to the American people. And like I said, measles, polio, chickenpox, rubella, they're all going to come back. And yeah, because they've got an ally in RFK Jr. It's the Matt McNeil Show. It's been a while since I explained this, but a Toyota from Rudy Luther Toyota will always be in my driveway. 2 years ago, a drunk driver slammed into my Toyota Sienna. In most vehicles, I wouldn't be here today, but my Toyota Sienna kept me safe. It was designed for safety, something I saw firsthand. I have no problem telling you, if you want a vehicle that will keep you and your family safe on the road, Toyota is the way to go. I'm partial to the Sienna, but all their vehicles are fantastic. Be safe, own a Toyota. Shop today at RudyLutherToyota.com or visit Rudy Luther Toyota on the corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Get a head start on your holiday shopping at Next Chapter Booksellers. Black Friday is just around the corner, and Next Chapter Booksellers has the perfect gift ideas. Books make for easy, thoughtful gifts that are a breeze to wrap and ship. Their friendly staff excels at offering recommendations for all ages and preferences. Explore their wide selection of puzzles and games for interactive family fun. And if you're still stumped, then try a Next Chapter Booksellers gift card. That's Next Chapter Booksellers in St. Paul, your destination for easy-to-give gifts.
You have a loved one who is not receiving the care that they deserve at their current memory care facility? I'm Aiden Helene, Director of Community Relations here at the Welshire. And I meet with families every single day who are struggling with poor staffing, missed medications, poor personal cares, and an absence of engagement from consistent activities. 85% of our residents at the Welshire are coming from other memory care facilities that could not meet their care needs. Not all memory care is created equally. And if this is something your family is experiencing, I encourage you to come visit our community of well-being and see the Welshire difference, where we promise that your loved one will live with pride and dignity. The Welshire has 24/7 nursing, a robust activities team that provides activities 7 days a week. And when the diagnosis takes a 9-to-5 approach, so will we. Book a tour at welshiremn.com and see our community of well-being in action. That's welshiremn.com. Again, that's welshiremn.com.
Hey, it's Patrick. We're headed full speed ahead into the holiday season, so the biggest question facing your home is going to be, is it ready for the holiday season? And if you look around at your carpet, tile, rugs, upholstery, and the answer is no, you need to call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res. Some people hire a deal of the day carpet cleaner to save a little money, but trust shouldn't come that way. Think about it. There is no licensing required to be a professional carpet cleaner. Don't DIY it. Call Zero Res because you know it's safe and effective. The Zero Res Gotta Love It guarantee makes it easy to get what you pay for. Zero Res absolutely stands behind every cleaning, so go ahead and get clean and don't miss this deal. Get back to clean and get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $129 and take $75 off an air duct cleaning. Call my friends at Zero Res right now at 952-ZERO-RES or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
It's the Matt McNeil Show. Yeah, the thing which I have zero doubt is that I mean, how many dead kids will it take for him to realize maybe, just maybe, I don't know a lot about medicine just because I read some things online? Or will he? Yeah, I mean, there was the raw milk thing. Let's talk about that. How he wants to go with raw milk. There was just a story in Minnesota about 2 years ago, was it? Where the same thing is like, we know what's good and healthy. You should be drinking raw milk. And then, of course, the listeria outbreak comes off of that. And a whole bunch of people got sick because they were drinking raw milk. And, of course, all of a sudden it was, well, you know, sometimes it's not safe. Well, yeah, it's not safe. We used to die of a lot of things. A lot more things than we die of today. Stuff like raw milk. I mean, what was it? President Zachary Taylor. If I'm not mistaken, he internally ruptured his intestines because he ate raw. He loved milk, cream, and fruit. That was his favorite dessert. And he apparently got some bad cream and it killed him, the president at the time. And I imagine if RFK Jr. was back then at that point, he'd be like, he's fine. He's fine. He'll, you know, look how healthy the body looks. Oh, God. I laugh because this is freaking terrifying. I mean, I can't wait for him to find some right-wing school district to install their raw milk, and all of a sudden we've got a massive outbreak of listeria in the school district with kids in the hospital, and him sort of saying, it wasn't the raw milk, it was the vaccines. That's what's going to happen. Because a guy like this is more than happy to sacrifice your kids for his beliefs. Ta-da! Speaking of which, Nick Fuentes. I finally found a story on this. I saw this story bouncing around on social media a little bit, and I was waiting for someone to report on it, so here you go. Police have now confirmed that they did respond to a call involving white nationalist Nick Fuentes and a woman who appeared to show up at his Illinois home on Sunday unannounced after he was doxxed online. Marla Rose, 57, said in a now deleted Facebook post that she was about to ring Fuentes' doorbell when he opened the door, sprayed her with a liquid, took her phone, pushed her down the steps, and went back inside. Rose did not respond to multiple requests for comment. Rose shared the video of the altercation on Tuesday on Facebook. In the video, Fuentes opens the door and points what appears to be a spraying device towards the camera. The person holding the camera says, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And the camera seems to be knocked over as Fuentes says, "Get the blank out of here." Fuentes then grabs the phone, takes it inside the house, and appears to lock the door, and the video ends. Well, that's theft. So the Borough and Police Department confirmed that it got a call Sunday involving Fuentes and Rose. Deputy Chief Michael Oshner Jr. said at the time neither party was willing to cooperate with the investigation, so we're unable to take any further until they changed in the status. On Fuentes on Monday hinted at the incident by reposting by Christian Tate, the alt-right influencer Andrew Tate's brother, and both of them are scum. That read, if a man turned up at a pro-choice women's house to confront her about her views, she could literally shoot him dead and nobody would care. He also posted, well, if she came to your door, was about to ring the doorbell, and you attacked her. If one of your rage angry alpha bros came to a woman and kicked open her door, damn right you would have a right to shoot him. He was just trying to share his list of grievances, and you had to kill him. Yeah. If that's, I've seen you guys in action. She is lucky she wasn't in a stand your ground state, or she should have been shot. As you approach a door, listen to the fantasy world these people are in. She is just walking to the door, gets to the door, about to ring the doorbell. He opens the door. They think it would be great if he shot her in the face, grabbed her phone, and locked the door. Fuentes has faced a brave amount of backlash since he wrote, "Your body, my choice forever," referring to abortion policies. Actually, no, referring to raping women. Talk about abortion. You're talking about raping women. Your body, my choice forever. The phrase has become a meme in some right-wing circles. Afterwards, many users began spreading Fuentes' personal information online, including his home address and pictures of his house, writing, "Your house, our choice." Since then, Google Maps has blurred its picture of Fuentes' house. In her original deleted post, in which she disclosed Fuentes' home address multiple times, Rose wrote that she found Fuentes' information after a friend messaged her his address, seeing that they lived in the same town. Rose wrote that she was inspired to pop over there, given Fuentes' history of anti-Semitic and white supremacist statements. In an interview with Vice magazine, Rose said that she showed up at Fuentes' door to ask him, "Why are you comfortable saying things like what you say? And what part of my curiosity about him was being a Jewish person living in a town with a proud actual Nazi?" Rose also told Vice that her address has started to circulate online as well. Rose has written in her deleted Facebook post that she is prompted to ring the doorbell after another woman who was in her car outside Fuentes' house told her, "You should ring his doorbell and see if he has to say for himself." She said the same woman called the police after the incident to file a police report. Rose wrote the police officer called an ambulance to check her eyes, but she did not sustain any major injuries because a sore on her right side where she said she had fallen. The police department said it did take a report on the incident, but has not released that to the public yet. Rose and her husband said they have faced harassment from the incident. Tuesday, at Facebook, they were swatted in the form of harassment there because that's kind of what these guys on the right do. Now, it should be noted, the worst things I have heard, this "your body, my choice forever" is on par with some of the worst language ever stated, with the worst things ever stated in the English language. Let's just be honest about it. And this guy, because it's not just about abortion. This is a person who is putting forth an idea that it's your body, but I can choose whatever I want to do at any time with you forever. And yeah, I can understand people being upset. But once again, I'm not saying if you are being bad intentions, if you're trying to kick open a door. No, that's not right. She just walked up to the door, and all of a sudden, this little scaredy cat, he got really scared and stole her phone. Interesting. Seattle, Chicago. Have a good weekend. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next.
Crooner's Supper Club invites you to enjoy drinks,
Hi, it's Penny from Nightingale, your gathering spot near 26th and Lyndale in South Minneapolis since 2012. Come check out the fun and vibrant atmosphere. Besides our traditional favorites like the Nightingale burger and fries, did you know we also have delicious vegetarian and vegan options? Plus, we have one of the best gluten-free menus in town. And for drinks, our bar staff is always creating fun new cocktails along with a thoughtfully curated wine and beer list. Join us at Nightingale where good times and great flavors come together.
Thanksgiving is fast approaching, and if you want the best turkey on your table, now is the time to act. Reserve a fresh, never frozen turkey from Ferndale Market. That's where the Peterson family has been raising free-range, antibiotic-free turkeys since 1939. Each year, they raise a special flock just for Thanksgiving, delivering pure, flavorful turkeys with no fillers or basting solutions, just 100% natural and delicious. Taste the difference of a fresh, never frozen turkey from Ferndale Market, guaranteed to be the highlight of your holiday meal. Pick yours up at Ferndale's On-Farm Market in Cannon Falls, which is a beautiful drive from the Twin Cities and features lots of fall colors. Or if you prefer to stay closer to home, find Ferndale Market Thanksgiving turkeys at a natural food store near you. Visit ferndalemarket.com to reserve your Thanksgiving turkey today and locate a retail partner near you. Make this Thanksgiving unforgettable with a farm-fresh turkey from Ferndale Market.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 51, tonight cloudy with a low around 40, and Saturday sunny with a high around 53. Spice up your meals with Vinaigrette's exquisite flavors. Unleash creativity in your kitchen using premium extra virgin and olive oils, balsamic vinegars, and more. A family-owned haven since 2009. Find Vinaigrette at 50th and Xerxes in Minneapolis or explore their offerings at vinaigrettemn.com. Elevate your dishes with Vinaigrette.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour number 2 of the show here on your Friday. Good to have you with us. Michael Broadcorp will join us here in a little bit. We got to get our Vikings fix on in here. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Patrick, did you see the story about the trees in St. Paul on the riverfront there?
I did, and I just
did you see that story about the trees there?
Yeah, I did. It was it's one of the things that it makes absolutely no sense at all.
It makes me mad because this is just, I don't know what's going on here. I don't think this is just random vandals. Random vandals would take out 1 or 2 trees. Sounds like some sort of psychopath that basically just, you don't like those trees and I'm going to get them all out of there. Plus, I just don't know how in the world, it's got to be something a little more coordinated, like someone got some equipment to do this, because this 60 trees in one night is an amazing amount of trees to move. Just gonna happenstance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would almost sounds like there had to be more than one person involved in this to me.
Maybe it's some kind of group of people who are there. Anyway, let me read the story to you. If you haven't heard this, this is upsetting. 60 newly planted trees, 60 along St. Paul's riverfront were uprooted Wednesday night, and most were tossed into the water in active vandalism costing tens of thousands of dollars. I'm incredibly sad. It's hard to fathom, said Karen Zumak, the director in community forestry of the St. Paul-based nonprofit Tree Trust, which contracted with the city to plant the trees with the help of the high school students in October. I'd like to think the trees are the least controversial thing we deal with these days. The trees, there clearly was some sort of organization here. I just do not think this was just random vandals, but yeah. The trees were planted over 2 days along Shepherd Road in the area of Upper Landing Park and the Sam Morgan Regional Trail. Photos taken by city staff on Thursday showed long rows of upturned dirt where the trees once stood. All but 14 of them were tossed into the Mississippi River, rendering them unsalvageable. The St. Paul Parks and Recreation Department estimated the damage comes to $40,000. Police confirmed Thursday it received a report of vandalism and an investigation is ongoing. The City Parks Department said in a statement the vandalism is believed to have occurred overnight, in one night. The 14 trees that did not end up the river have been reinstalled. Zumak said the process to replace the others has yet to be determined, but the planting season has already passed. About 25 high school students helped plant 250 trees while school was out during the annual MEA conference for state educators in October. The trees were a variety of species that were meant to replace large swath of ash trees that were professionally removed early this year. Sumac said the saplings stood about 5 to 7 feet tall and weighed up to 30 pounds. The plantings were part of a job training program run by the Tree Trust where students can receive work experience in the industry. The program set about to plant 1,500 trees in the St. Paul this year. Sumac said her organization has dealt with vandalism in the past, trees that are broken or bent, but nothing of the scope and scale. Okay, so once again, even if this was some drunk idiot kid, then I can't believe that they would be able to get 60 trees out of the ground and into the water without collapsing. I mean, that is an insane amount of effort. So the question then becomes, is it some guys on like bath salts where they're just not of their right mind? It's either that or there is something a lot more nefarious going on here, that there is some sort of coordinated event, which with the volume of trees, it seems to be that some guy and his buddies just decided to go on out there and get rid of the trees because we don't like trees. Trees bad. I don't know. I guarantee you there's probably video surveillance somewhere of this. That even on what you would consider to be a secondary road with not many people out there, that I would make an argument that there's got to be some camera, whether there's a doorbell camera, whether it's a security camera on a business or traffic cameras, which are around more places than you think. I got to believe that there's some evidence of this. I would say this. I would please, I'm going to beg you, if anyone knows who did this, if anyone has any inkling, if you were, say it was 5 a.m. this morning and you were going on out and you were at a gas station over off of Shepherd Road and you noticed two guys covered in dirt came in, or something like that. If you saw anything, contact the St. Paul police and let's find these guys and let's get them chucked into jail because this is disgusting. And I think the fact that we all know about this now, I mean, I think these two chuckleheads, whoever these chuckleheads were, I should say too, I don't know how many people were involved here. But these chuckleheads, I think, were thinking to themselves, there we got them, and it wasn't going to get much attraction. But I think pretty much every news outlet's covering this story today. And so let's find these people and chuck them into jail. Let's make them a little scared about, I don't know what you're talking about. Because I guarantee you, I would check social media too. I bet you one of these idiots is out there talking about, put out a post like, we took care of those city trees we didn't want. I don't know. That is insane. The amount of work that would have been. 60 trees. I agree. It can't have been one person. I mean, even a person on like bath salts or something like that. I mean, they'd have to be strong. They'd have to be quick. I mean, say it took you 10 minutes to get each tree up. That'd be 10 hours of constant work. I can't see it. I just can't see it. It's got to be something a little more coordinated. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Hennepin County released results showing that 3.5% fewer voters cast their ballot in 2024 election than in 2020. About 725 residents compared to 760 4 years earlier. This goes back to what I said. This is, as a lot of people said, the working class voters abandoned the Democrats and gone to the Republicans. No, just fewer voters showed up. Fewer voters showed up. And I would make an argument that it's the pile of ideas thing, which I'll repost that story today. It's the pile of ideas. It's the fact that the Democratic Party doesn't have any kind of consistent messaging. And it's also the fact that this election cycle, the Democratic Party moved far to the right and was trying to be, we're Republican light. And if all you're trying to do is mimic Republicans, then why would people show up and vote for you from the Democratic Party and no one from the Republican Party is, if you're going to just pretend to be a Republican, I'll vote for a Republican. So once again, I think the soul searching here needs to be, hey, Democrats, why don't you be Democrats? Why don't you DFL, I don't know, find a traditional DFL platform and run with that? And two, why don't you make some consistent policy points and make them to where if you want to be a part of the DFL, you have to agree to these things. Doesn't mean that you can't have moderates or progressives. It just means you have to have some basis to the party where there's at least some cohesive ideas there that make the party the party. And one of them should be taxing billionaires. 81.71% of registered Hennepin County residents voted this election cycle, including absentee ballots. It brings up, I want to get to a exceptional article here from Racket about Governor Walz, and that I agree wholeheartedly with the assessment that if they would have embraced Walz and his American populism that he came onto the campaign with, that the Democrats might have won this election. Instead, the campaign separated itself from that and decided to go jump down the far right-wing elements of it, in turn alienating the left side of the party. On August 2nd, not long after he was selected as Kamala Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was asked on Ezra Klein's podcast what the Democratic Party's top priorities should be in 2025 should it win the governing majority. I think paid family and medical leave. And then VP candidate quickly answered, we're the last nation on earth to not do this. Outstanding. I think that's a positive thing that you could run with. 3 months later, casual or even close observers in the Walz-Harris campaign would have to be forgiven if not for not knowing that was ever part of the platform. Progressives were eager to spin Walz's nomination as a victory for the left when it was the first announced, but the standard of Minnesota Democratic Farm Labor Party Governor Walz is a moderate, which thereby places him squarely to the left of the average U.S. politician. This includes the remaining coterie of inoffensive white dads on the Harris campaign assembled for the VP shortlist. Unlike Pennsylvania Governors Josh Shapiro and Arizona's Senator Mark Kelly, Walz had opposed military interventions while in the U.S. House, signed a bevy of progressive legislation as governor, expressed support for Medicare for all and legal marijuana, and even mounted a polite defense of the uncommitted movement on national television. As the Biden-Harris era has shown, on substance, vice presidents are of little consequence. Running mates can matter when it comes to crafting a narrative, however. In the early stages of this candidacy, Walz did provide optical value to the campaign, which giddily released video of Kamala and Tim poking fun at the governor's low spice threshold. Walz's image as a rural Midwestern National Guardsman, football coach, and hunter gave the pundit class a few solid weeks of fodder, but was the spotlight turned back on the top of the ticket, it became evident that Walz's selection was not indicative of a larger turn towards populism. Even the weird epitaph that skyrocketed the little-known Minnesota politician to cable news stardom was abandoned after Kamala's advisor determined it had lost its mileage. In retrospect, Walz's entrance, which I disagree with, you guys should have been calling them weird all the way to the end. Walz's entrance in the national political scene was a short burst of good feeling in an otherwise confused and rudderless campaign. It wasn't that Vice President Harris jettisoned paid family and medical leave the way she had done with the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, the humane immigration policy, and a host of other left-wing policies she ran on before her 2019 presidential campaign self-destructed. Like support for the PRO Act and higher minimum wage, paid leave was buried in the Harris-Walz website Issues tab beneath the subhead Support American Innovation and Workers, and a long paragraph touting Biden's accomplishment aside from the pledge to crack down on the price gouging and some tailing of Trump's no tax on tips proposal. Harris presented little economic vision of her own. The Harris-Walz team was then positioned to lean into the policy wins of the governor, who had just enacted not only a paid leave, but major investments in education, infrastructure, affordable housing, a ban on non-compete agreements, ambitious decarbonization targets, free school lunches, and codified abortion rights. It'd be hard to spin that agenda as a boutique of coastal when it had been signed into law by an average gun-toting walleye hosting twin walls over flyover country. The point of elections, as Governor Walz famously said, is not to bank political capital. You win elections to burn political capital and improve lives. The postmortems of the Harris-Walz campaign have illustrated that the literal capital apparently was spent more on celebrity appearances, consulting fees, and ominous orbs than helping Americans understand how our lives would be improved should a Vice President Harris get a promotion. I would agree with that. I mean, I made this point. I said, when she was doing 2 weeks of interviews. He and her were doing 2 weeks of TV interviews, and Trump was out doing 4 rallies a day. And I said, she shouldn't be doing this. She should be out there. I had people saying, what do you know? She's doing great. And I said, there's visibility, but it's all politics is local, man. You got to get out in the street. And I'm not saying, I think they ran a pretty good campaign. But once again, when you have the election cycles, when there's a dramatic decrease in Democrats voting, generally the problem is that the party moved too far to the right, to the moderate side, and that they basically alienated a portion of the middle of the road Democrats and the left Democrats, and they just stayed home. Because at the end of the day, that's what happened. And as people like Angie Craig, and I'll get to her in a second, and people like Angie Craig say, you need to be more moderate like me. The reality is you had the most moderate presidential campaign you possibly could have, and it still failed. This wasn't about being more moderate. And I'm glad you won, courtesy of a lot of progressive and middle-of-the-road Democratic dollars, Angie. But I'm glad you won your race. But what worked for you is definitely not something that's going to work for the rest of the country. And yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think if Walz would have maintained that initial burst of populism, I think he would have, and the party would have embraced that. I think this would have been a blowout for Harris. I do. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, man. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. When the moment presented itself, Harris failed to break with the unpopular incumbent, perhaps afraid to offend her boss of his dwindling diehards. 4 years ago, Biden pitched his presidency as a bridge to a new generation of leaders. While he didn't anticipate his metaphorical bridge would have to be lowered through the threat of force, once it was his successor had been opportunity to compete the transition away from the timidly centrist Democratic Party of yore. It was Joe Biden, after all, who won in 2020 after synthesizing his platform on that of Bernie Sanders and won like Barack Obama by activating the base. Yet Harris was preoccupied with courting the scarce, elusive, never-Trump Republicans and elevated Trumpian concerns like the border crisis to her own peril. It can't be easy to craft an exciting, modern New Deal when your economic team is made up of venture capitalists and BlackRock alums. Wall Street guys who likely accept the orthodox explanation that this latest round of inflation came from excessive government spending, adding that the swerve away from economic populism, Harris's brother-in-law, top Uber executive Tony West, acting as the campaign's guiding hand. Tim Walz, ever the good soldier or joyful warrior, is forced to watch as his running mate quadrupled down on losing Democratic strategies. It's a good article. It is a good article. And I'll post the article later on, but I will just say I agree with that. I think you had lightning in a bottle when Tim Walz came on the scene. And I think after that convention, if Harris and Walz would have engaged in populism, that they basically would have been able to march to a victory. Instead, they basically, it became all about moderate, and trying to win over a handful of Republicans, as opposed to realizing you need your base. And I get it. People like Angie Craig will look at you stupid liberals, you stupid progressives, you stupid middle of the road people. We're winning. You need to get on board with our trajectory. The reality is no. You have to have a cohesive party. Speaking of which, let me get back to Angie Craig here, because a lot of people have pointed out, she doesn't seem to be doing too well here. Lawmakers reject bill that would let Trump destroy nonprofits, screams the Intercept headline about the Stop Terror Financing and Tax Penalties of American Hostages Act, which was narrowly rejected Tuesday in the U.S. House. Among the 52 Democrats who voted yes, who voted along with the Republicans, Craig was the only Minnesota one to do so. The bonkers bill would have granted the Treasury Secretary power to label any nonprofit group as sympathetic to terrorism. If the group had failed to appeal, it would have been stripped of its 501(c)(3) status. Trump's likely picked to lead the Treasury, MAGA Wall Street guy, Scott Bessent, a nice-looking guy who has many fans in Trump world Axios. All of us support stopping terrorism, said Representative Lloyd Doggett, a Democrat from Texas, after the vote. But it was if he was on a march to make America's fascist, we do not need to supply Donald Trump with any additional weapons to accomplish his ill purpose. It is, of course, already illegal for nonprofits or any groups to aid terrorism, which led many lawmakers, but not Craig, and 130 nonprofits to decry H.R. 9495 as an authoritarian crutch Trump would have wielded against his tax-exempt enemies, news outlets, universities, advocacy groups, concludes a senior policy counsel from ACLU. The freedom of dissent without fear of government retribution is a vital part of any well-functioning democracy, and now is not the time to grant the executive branch new powers to investigate and functionally shut down and silence its critics. Tonight, enough members of the House voted to block the giving of the executive branch new broad and easy abuse powers. This is only the first such battle we expect to see in coming years, and we'll continue to remain vigilant to working to ensure the authority of the executive branch is appropriately limited. Always the centrist, though, Craig pivoted further right during her most recent election against Joe Tarab. At times, I watched her ads and asked, wait a minute, is she the MAGA candidate? Said Stephen Shire, professor emeritus from poli-sci at Carleton College. He told MinnPost this week. We asked Craig's team for the congresswoman would like to defend the vote, and they did not hear back. Once again, this is a bill that would have allowed them to look at, I don't know, something like Black Lives Matter or, the Minnesota Informer or Minnesota Reformer or something like that, and label them an enemy of the state. And she voted for that. I don't think we should be listening to Angie Craig anymore. Do we have a timeline on her press conference about the Democratic Party has left me, so I'm becoming a Republican? When's that press conference coming? When is she coming on out here and saying, because clearly she seems more Republican. Like I said, primary at this point. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. The Matt McNeil Show here on your Friday.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
Hi, everyone. Recently, I tried to figure out how much money I've saved on gas with my Toyota Sienna Hybrid from Rudy Luther Toyota. Toyota Hybrids are fantastic vehicles, roomy, safe, stylish, and incredibly fuel efficient. I got my latest Toyota Sienna a little over a year ago, so I did the math. So far, I've saved over $1,500 on gas since I got my Sienna. You heard that correctly. Over $1,500 in fuel in little over a year. And they're a fun vehicle. You can drive all day on one tank of gas, so it's perfect for winter travel. Get yourself a Toyota Hybrid today and start saving money on fuel. Rudy Luther Toyota, 5 miles west of Minneapolis on 394.
This is Aiden Helene, Director of Community Relations here at the Welshire. If you have a loved one who's in need of a memory care facility, I encourage you to come look at our facilities in either Bloomington or Medina to come and see the Welshire difference. From our 24/7 nursing to robust activities team, come and see our community of well-being in action by visiting welshiremn.com and scheduling a tour at either one of our facilities. That's welshiremn.com.
This is Andy Otto, your host of Twin Cities Pride Amplified, inviting you to join us this Saturday at 3 p.m. as we discuss heading out of this election season and how it's impacting our community. There are ways for us to get connected, get involved, and build community right here in Minnesota, and Twin Cities Pride is here to help. That's this Saturday at 3 p.m. right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Cafe Latte offers made-from-scratch soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. So come check out their pizza and wine bar, or get a treat from the bakery made fresh daily. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout, along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
If I were a human being, I'd head straight for New
AM 950, the
Orleans.
progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. An update on this story. The one-time substitute teacher who is banned from the Minnesota School District after being accused last month of reenacting George Floyd's murder in a class has now lost his job as a police officer in western Wisconsin, the city's mayor said on Monday. This was pretty bad, man. This was pretty bad. Prescott Mayor Robert Daughtry told the Minneapolis Star-Tribune that the city council on Monday reached a separation agreement with Stephen Dwight Williams, 48, and accepted his resignation effective Friday in lieu of his termination. Students reported to the principal, Sarah Soros and Wagner, that Williams, teaching on October 14th for the first time at Woodbury High School, wanted to know what his life as a police officer. According to the district, he put a student on the ground as part of a reenactment of Minneapolis police actions that led to the murder of George Floyd in May of 2020. Derek Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes, contributing to Floyd's death. Chauvin and 3 other not contributing. He killed him. He killed the guy. Chauvin and 3 other Minneapolis officers were convicted and sentenced to prison in connection with the Floyd's death. In addition, Williams mimicked holding a gun and pointing it at students, stated police brutality is not real, told sexist jokes, and engaged in inappropriate and racially harmful behavior during the English classes for sophomores and seniors, according to the letter the school district sent to the parents. The statement added that Williams has been a law enforcement for many years in his native Wisconsin and Montana, had been on the Prescott force for about 2 years. He was immediately put on administrative leave from the Prescott force for the allegations. In March of this year, Williams was granted a 3-year short-term substitute teacher's license for all grades, according to the state records. Following Williams' alleged conduct at Woodbury High School, a report was filed with the Minnesota Department of Education. As of Friday, public records show no disciplinary actions in the department against him. But yeah. I mean, the thing which scares me is I couldn't guess this guy's going to get another police job fairly quickly. Yeah. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Sharon and Egan wanted to chime in on the Angie Craig stuff. Welcome on in, Sharon.
Thank you. I too agree with you strong-heartedly about Angie Craig. And I first became very angry with her with how she turned on Joe Biden. And I think this is a big bad policy among Democrats, is that when we have a person that gets in trouble, we don't stick up for them. We're not loyal to them. There's no way Al Franklin should be gone, and there should have been more support for Joe Biden.
Well, and she was, to be honest about Angie, she was one of the first people that insisted that he needed to go. And, that kind of burned a lot of people too, because and what it seemed like to me was at the time she was engaging in this as a way to try to appeal to the Republican leaning voters of her district, and but yet she, the fact that she was bashing on Biden even after the election seems to be, I think that was a little unfortunate.
Yeah. And, Nancy Pelosi, she was not a good speaker of the House, because she's one of the main ones that will not stick up for good. I mean, Al Franken was so good in his job.
Well, and Sharon, I first of all, thank you very much. I appreciate the phone call. And thank you for calling in today. I will say this, because I don't want to get off into too many tangents here. I think what you saw, the main problem is that we do not have a cohesive message within the Democratic Party. And look at the way, once again, the DFL bankrolled Angie Craig. She was the primary race, because Klobuchar was never a question. So the primary race the DFL banked on was Angie Craig, and they gave Angie a lot of money that came from progressives in the state, came from middle-of-the-road Democrats, and Angie, as the most visible candidate in the DFL was running, ran a campaign that was anti-Democrat. Frankly, it was just an anti-Democrat campaign. And that was dumb. Because I can tell you one thing, it doesn't solve your problem by basically running a candidate who's constantly bashing on your own party. That is your most visible race. And whether that's the DFL not going to Angie and saying, Angie, stop. If you don't want our money, we'll take our money back and we'll find a proud Democrat that needs it. Probably Jen Schultz up in 8. But they didn't do that. And Angie just, she had no problem sacrificing the Minnesota House races for her cause, frankly. And I don't think that helps. And it sure as heck doesn't help the day after the election, her basically, or a few days after the election, her bashing on the Democratic Party in MinPost, saying you need to do things more like the moderates. Well, like I said, we just ran one of the most moderate campaigns and it didn't succeed. There is this false idea, and I will say this about the Democratic Party, and I'm very critical of this, that if you agree with us, you have to vote for us. And I don't think that's necessary. And what you're seeing, you would hope that people would have seen that Donald Trump is going to be a real threat to especially marginalized groups in this country and in this state. But the reality is that, by making a message of Democrat bad and saying everything has to be on the moderate side, this has happened before. I saw this in 2010. You basically tell people you don't need to vote. And I have a hard time with that because I think everyone should be voting all the time. And yes, there are the lesser of two evils. And it blows my mind. There are people in this state and in this country that looked at Kamala Harris and say, yeah, I agree with her 70% of the time, and I agree with Donald Trump 0% of the time. So I'm either going to vote for the 0 guy or I'm going to enable the guy that I disagree with all the time into winning. I don't know. I can't help you there. But I do believe, a lot of people are not very happy with Angie Craig. And I would not be surprised if there's a primary challenge there. If she doesn't abandon the party and run, my guess is going to be is that she's going to try to find some way to present herself as a born-again progressive in the primary season. I don't know how. But a lot of people in the Minnesota 2nd District are not happy with how she's gone. And frankly, DFL, I'm not in the 2nd District. I'm in the 3rd District. If I'm not going to give you a damn donation if all you're going to do is give it to her so she can just bash on the Democratic Party. So I need to know from you that either you're going to create a standard where the money from the party doesn't go to bashing on the party, or you just don't give it to her. All right? I don't think that's an outrageous ask there. Final thing I want to mention before I get to Broadcorp here. A man who police say killed his family before shooting himself last week was approved for a gun permit in September, 2 months after he was hospitalized following an incident where he had held a knife to his wife's throat. Yikes. Anthony Nephew, 46, was found dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound along with his wife, Kathy Ramslid, 45, and son Oliver Nephew, 7, at the family house at 4401 West 6th Street across from the Denville High School. He suspected of first killing his ex-wife, Erin Abramson, 47, and their son, Jacob Nephew, 15, were found dead in their home on Tacony Street, just less than a mile away. Nephew applied for and received a gun permit on September 9th, according to a search warrant filed in the St. Louis County. The filing alongside incident reports indicate Nephew had mounting concerns about the country's political future. Ramslid called the local authorities on July 3rd to report that Anthony Nephew had attacked her and was suicidal. He was cooperative when officers arrived and then admitted to holding a knife to his wife's neck. He told police officers that he'd been diagnosed with schizophrenia in the past 5 years and been going downhill. He had a met change a few days ago, and then since the voices have been telling him that Trump is going to take over the world and he needs to kill his family to protect them, according to the incident report. Nephew said that at the time that he believed Russians had control over his mind since he was 6 years old. He said that Trump took over control and put a bullet in his head and the head of the families. Nephew spent the night at St. Luke's Hospital, according to the search warrant. Nephew had spoken openly both on Facebook and in a column in the Duluth News Tribune about mental health struggles. How does a guy like this get a permit? That's just straightforward. How does a guy like this get a permit? he had this out there. I mean, clearly he has got mental health issues. He's got a history of violence, and somebody gave him a gun permit in September. Is that the St. Louis County Sheriff's Department that does it, or would that be the Duluth Police? I need someone from those agencies. I need someone in those from whatever agency issued that to explain to me how you felt this guy deserved to have a gun. Seriously, either whether it's the Duluth Police Department or the St. Louis County Sheriff's Department, I need someone who saw this history and said, "Yep, give that guy a gun," because whoever did that is partially responsible for this. Frankly, they are. You gave this guy the ability to go get a gun, and that gun was used to kill what ended up being 5 people. He had clear mental health problems. He has a history of violence. How in the world do you give this guy a gun permit? This is a broken system, man. This is an absolutely broken system. I think we all can agree that this individual should never have gotten a permit. For God's sakes, no. Yeah, there's got to be some level of oversight on this stuff. There's got to be. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. When we do return, we'll change our tune. We'll go into football, and we'll talk about the Vikings taking on the Titans. Michael Broadcorp joins us when we come back. It is the Matt McNeil Show.
Hey, AM 950. This is JP Debragosian, host of The Gailey Show and The Square Book Saved My Life, airing every Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Instead of talking about queer happenings around town, I wanted to take a moment to share some support resources as we are reacting to this devastating election. If you are a queer person or if you have a queer loved one in your life, there are a lot of emotions happening right now: anxiety, fear, depression, anger, and more. This is not an exhaustive list of resources, but a few that can help not only process the election, but to help support you for the next 4 years. The Minnesota LGBTQ Therapist Network is an amazing resource. I have used it myself to find a life-changing therapist who has helped me so much. You can look up providers not just on whether they accept your insurance or not, but based on your identity, however you identify within the rainbow. You can then see the results for therapists who specialize in serving you and who may identify the same as well. Their website is lgbttherapist.org. If you own a queer business, connect with Twin Cities Quorum, our award-winning LGBTQ+ and allied Chamber of Commerce. Their website is twincitiesquorum.com. That's Quorum. There is the new LGBTQ Resource Center that is open 7 days a week, Queermunity. Find out about their events and all their daily resources at queermunitymn.com. Family Tree Clinic is a reproductive and sexual health clinic who offers trans hormone care, PrEP, and more healthcare services. Their website is familytreeclinic.org. Coming up this Saturday at 2 p.m. on This Queer Book Saved My Life, my guest will be Chris Tompkins, and we'll be talking about a book that has special significance for myself, The Velvet Rage by Alan Downs. After that, on The Gailey Show, Kathy Renna from the National LGBTQ Task Force will join me to talk about the election and the upcoming Creating Change Conference, and Nicole Zelniker will be here to talk about her new book, From Where We Are. See you this Saturday at 2 p.m. Until then, enjoy this hour of The Matt McNeil Show.
You want to feel important? You want to be part of something bigger, something that matters, and that you can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We felt that way too. I'm Sergeant First Class Daphne Pierre from Robbinsdale, Minnesota, and that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Minnesota Army National Guard soldiers. We are people just like you, and together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit nationalguard.com/MN to find out more. Sponsored by the Minnesota Army National Guard, aired by the Minnesota Broadcasters Association and this station.
Seward Co-op, serving the community for over 50 years, invites you to shop their 2 convenient locations. Seward Co-op stores are committed to local producers and food you can feel good about serving your family and guests. Pre-order your Thanksgiving meal from Seward. Local free-range Ferndale turkeys, handcrafted, traditional, vegetarian, vegan, and made without gluten sides. Perfect for everyone at your Thanksgiving gathering. Find Seward at 2823 East Franklin Avenue or the Friendship Store, 38th Street and 3rd Avenue in Minneapolis. More at seward.coop.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 51. Tonight, cloudy with a low around 40. And Saturday, sunny with a high around 53. Spice up your meals with vinaigrette's exquisite flavors. Unleash creativity in your kitchen using premium extra virgin and olive oils, balsamic vinegars, and more. A family-owned haven since 2009. Find Vinaigrette at 50th and Xerxes in Minneapolis or explore their offerings at vinaigrettemn.com. Elevate your dishes with Vinaigrette.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It is time for us to talk about the Vikings, who got a win last week at Jacksonville. It wasn't pretty, but it was a win. Michael Broadcorp, who joins us usually to talk about politics. He is, of course, our Vikings correspondent with his very cool Vikings hat. I like that hat, man.
Thank you very much.
Very nice. He is kind enough to join us to give us we'll break down a little bit what happened last week before we talk about what's coming up this week. Michael, who doesn't love field goals?
Who doesn't love field goals? By the way, let's start by saying we're geniuses once again.
I was off a little bit. I thought it was going to be like a 30-10 game. I did, but they still just dominated them.
That game was very much like my high school career. I graduated. It was an ugly process, and it was a squeaker at the end, and nothing to write home about. But I got the diploma, but it was not too much to be proud of. But they got the diploma. It counts. It counts for a W.
Let's talk about the thing that nobody has talked about this week. The Vikings defense got Cashman back, and they absolutely demolished Jacksonville. Now, once again, Jacksonville is Jacksonville, but you're at their place. They just looked inept the entire game, and a lot of that was, once again, that furious Vikings defense showed back up again. Cashman's back, and they look like a cohesive unit.
Man, I've been spoiled over the years because I've been able to see Vikings games all my life. But I got to tell you something, this defense is such a character this season. Yeah. And I just don't remember a time in which it was such a dominant force. And that was partly because, I wasn't, I started watching, I wasn't born until the early 70s. And so Vikings had strong defenses, but I wasn't, as focused on football and can remember that. But they're just a dominant character in these games. And particularly in light what the offensive struggles they had on Sunday, the Vikings were there. And Brian Flores continues to be, I think, one of the best pickups that the Vikings have had on their coaching staff. And just another example of just a quality organization that was able to pick him up. He has been a lifesaver. His defense has been a lifesaver in a number of games this season. And it certainly was on Sunday, a game that should not have been as close as it was.
I don't think it should have been either, but they really did that defense went out there and punched them right in the face. And a team like Jacksonville, you do that one time, that game is kind of over. And even though who was that backup quarterback they had? The guy that got picked the same year as Trevor Lawrence. Remember that? Who was it? Oh my God.
Jones.
Yeah. He didn't look very good.
No, yeah, correct. He did not look very good.
He did not look very good. And I don't think that was not necessarily him. He is a backup quarterback, but I think it was a lot the defense basically. You get guys that don't take a lot of reps. They don't quite know what's coming at them.
Yeah, no. And the defense is what saved that game because it's deceptive because the Vikings had over 400 yards of offense against the Jaguars. But the problem was we've got some target issues with Sam Darnold that are starting to develop. And again, this is something that I was just wanting to be a Vikings fan and always want to be positive about life, but particularly about the Vikings. Matt, I think that I'm surprised about this season. I mean, we are 7-2. I want to make sure my math is correct. We're 7-2.
Yeah, 7-2.
7-2 after 9 games. Again, if you would have told me that last year, I'd be streaking right now.
Same amount of wins as we had all last year, correct?
Yeah. Boy,
7 wins last year.
That's a deep track, Matt. Great job. But the problem is that we have balance because we had over 400 yards of offense on the offensive side, but Sam Darnold struggled. Our kicking game picked up after, I was, talking about the game that I was at the previous Sunday with my daughter, where we had some kicking struggles. That was something that picked itself up, but we have balance and we have depth on this team. And so when the kicking team has had some struggles, they stepped up last week with our new kicker. The defense continued to step up. There were a game or two where they had some, a little bit of struggles. The real challenge was Sam Darnold last weekend, and hopefully, again, he's a young quarterback. I mentioned it on last week's episode with you that I like the leadership style of Kevin O'Connell. giving continual suggestions and help to our young quarterback. But I've never been an NFL quarterback, but Sam Darnold has got to throw the ball to a Vikings player this weekend.
Well, okay, so I want to talk to you about that because that was one thing about it. And if you're not didn't know what happened in the game, Sam Darnold multiple times got down in the red zone and kept trying to target Justin Jefferson, who was triple teamed, and it was just not the throw. And I kept saying, it's like there's got to be someone else open at this point if he's got all these defenders on him. And he just was he was telegraphing his throws. Now, I know, and I might have missed something. You might have heard this. I didn't. I haven't really heard the team address this, and it makes me wonder, was this Darnold just making a mistake? Was this Darnold and Jefferson saying, okay, let's try to make this work. Let's see if we can get these touchdowns. Or was this O'Connell? Was this coming from the coaching staff saying, when we get to the red zone, throw it to Justin Jefferson and try to do it? I can't quite figure out who's the culpable party. Is it Darnold on himself? Was it Darnold and Jefferson together? Or was it the coaching?
I don't know, man. What I can say to you is, even if it was for just a few plays or a part of that game, ultimately interceptions get assigned to the quarterback. Yes. And there's been some target issues that Darnold has had. And I will say to you, again, I've never worn an NFL jersey, never played an NFL, never played organized football aside from street football, where I tried to be all-time quarterback, but didn't do a very good job. There were a few plays, particularly when I was at the game on last Sunday night, not 2 Sundays ago, at the Colts game, where a couple of interceptions were just very difficult to see what he was seeing in his field of in his vision, and some bad throws in targets where it would be really difficult to make, but some others that just didn't make a lot of sense. And the reality is that I think the Vikings have two things. One thing going for them, which is they have wins. They're 7-2. The problem is right now we're in a division where every game is a must win, just like you said, and there's not a lot of room for error. And so bottom line is the Vikings have some instability right now in the quarterback position, and they have to get back to where they were earlier in the season because I think that there's some stability issues that we need to resolve.
We've taken care of Twinkie. It's now time for us to take care of Ho-Ho, namely the Tennessee Titans. Yes. Okay, so I looked at the spread on this game, and it's a 6-point advantage, which we're the road team is huge.
Yes.
So I said, okay, what am I missing here? Why is this so big? It sounds like the entire team is back. All of them they're looking at full capacity. There was some limited practice, but it sounds like that some of these guys are going to be back, and it's not going to we're not going to have nearly as much of our players out, which is good.
Yes.
Yeah, there's Andrew Van Ginkel was playing. They're listed as no injury designation for Aaron Jones, the tight end Josh Oliver, or Andrew Van Ginkel. So it looks like we're going to have our full team on the road at a bad Tennessee Titans. That would explain why the odds makers are thinking this is going to be a solid Vikings win,
which is a larger spread than it was on Sunday. I mean, I think when you and I were discussing it, I think the last time I saw it was 5.5 going into Jacksonville. What are you saying it is now at the Titans? Is it 6?
It's 6.5. Yeah.
6. So 6.5. So a full point higher. So I think your analysis as to why it's higher is because of the strength of the Vikings. This should be a game that we should win. We should win, on the road. This should be a game that we should win. I mean, this is one of those, again, just to remind your listeners, Matt, not my listeners, your listeners. You started out. I was very critical of that first week when you said New York Giants must win. And it turns out you were right. It was must win.
Well, I will say this. Here's another, you want another, I'm starting to work at this. I got another one for you. This is our last game against an AFC team for the rest of the season. And we are only in, it's actually week 10, but we've only played 9 games. We have literally, the Tennessee Titans is our last AFC game. The rest of the schedule's all NFC teams. I can't remember the last time that kind of felt so loaded in the front end, but it's one of the reasons why I think we've gotten to 7-2 is because the AFC teams have not been good. So we're lucking out on that.
And we're coming into 2 games so after we get through this weekend, and the Lions play the Jaguars at home this weekend. So we are 1 game out of first place.
Yes.
And even if we were to have the same record as of now, the Lions would have the tie. We have from just an NFC North, we have 2 games with the Bears left, 1 game with the Packers, and 1 game with Detroit at Detroit. So we have 1 game at the Bears, 1 game at home with the Bears, Packers at home, and we have 1 game with Detroit at their stadium, which do they have a stadium? I don't know what it is. They maybe just play in some vacant field. I don't know. We can talk offline at some point. My animosity towards the Detroit Lions has increased. It's related because of some issues in my neighborhood. But we can talk offline as to why my animosity is rising towards the Lions.
There's a Lions flag flying on someone's driveway in your neighborhood.
It's a personal issue. It's become personal.
All right, here we are. Noon start time on Sunday. Vikings at Tennessee. Do I have to go first as always?
Matt, we're not messing with it. It's 7-2, bud. You've got us this far. You're taking us on the field.
I think they're going to. I think you and I, what we talked about with Darnold, I think they're going to pull him aside, saying, "Take the low hanging freaking fruit. Don't try to throw it into triple coverage. Make sure you see what's in your field of vision." I don't think. I mean, they had 400 yards. I mean, they just kind of got stumped up in the end zone. Yep. I'll go with my same prediction as last week. I think it's going to be 30-10. It's going to be easily handled. If we've got our full contingent of offense and defense out there, the Tennessee Titans don't match up. As long as we play the full game and we don't let them sneak away with one, this should be fine.
I would agree with you. I thought you were right last week. The only thing I was frustrated with about your prediction last week is I didn't get to have the lazy Sunday that I wanted. I'm really hoping this weekend I get to have that kind of lazy Sunday, watch the game. One thing I'll just say up to it's your show for discussion, is I think one thing we should talk about next week, depending on how he plays this weekend, is where's Sam Darnold next season?
If we go into next week, if we are at 8-2, so we've literally gotten more victories than we had last year already.
Yep.
I mean, JJ had to have a second surgery to get rid of some swelling. You got to get him signed, put him in for a 2-year deal on top of what he got, and let him know that, it's his job unless, if he starts to falter, then we bring in JJ. I think it's a good option, but we'll talk more about that later. Okay?
Absolutely, Matt. As always, thank you for the opportunity to come on, and we'll be texting on Sunday, my friend.
We'll be texting on Sunday. We look forward to it. Michael Broadcorp, we're picking the Vikes to beat Tennessee. We'll take a break. Come on back. Got some music to hit out with the week. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Friday.
Hi, it's Angela Warner from Warner Stellian, and if you're like me, you've got a dozen things in your online shopping cart you're just waiting to buy. What if the price goes lower, or shouldn't I wait till Black Friday? Stop waiting. At Warner Stellian, we've got guaranteed Black Friday prices now. They won't go lower. So replace that almost broken dishwasher with free installation on select models, or upgrade to a bigger fridge with an exclusive $200 bonus and a faster stove for the holidays. Shop Black Friday prices now, guaranteed at WarnerStellian.com.
Hi, I'm Mary T, inviting you to experience our integrative Mary T Health and Wellness Center, offering physical, occupational, speech, and lymphedema therapies. Experience our guided imagery, meditation, Tibetan medicine, dry needling, massage services, including cupping and oncology massage. Sign up for our free wellness screenings and learn more at marytwellness.com. All major health insurance providers are accepted. Come for therapy, experience wellness.
It's the time of the year where we begin to see the snow fly. If your vehicle needs to get ready for the winter driving ahead, take it in for service at Rudy Luther Toyota. Rudy Luther Toyota's service department is top-notch, no matter if you're looking for routine maintenance or bigger service. They're committed to providing you the care and expert service their loyal customers have come to trust. You can schedule an appointment at rudyluthertoyota.com and make sure to check out their website for the latest service specials. To schedule your service, head to rudyluthertoyota.com. That's rudyluthertoyota.com.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our local leaders. How do you reward your employees? How do you appreciate your business partners? Thousands of local organizations just like yours count on Minuteman Uptown for promotional products. We craft custom awards and plaques. We print your logo on apparel, office supplies, and thousands of other items. Minuteman Uptown helps you reward employees and stay top of mind with customers and vendors. We print everything. Contact us today at mpuptown.com.
AM FM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. There you go. A little football to take you out. Have a great weekend. Native Roots Radio is coming up next. We are taking you out. How about the Romantics? Yeah, let's something about you. What I like about you. There it is. Have a good one. We are back on a Monday. Until then, see ya.
What I like about you, you hold me tight. Tell me I'm the only one. Wanna come over tonight? Yeah. Phone whispering in my ear. Tell me all the things that I wanna hear, 'cause it's true. That's what I like about you. What I like about you, you really know how to dance. When you go up, down, jump around, think about true romance. Yeah. Phone whispering in my ear. Tell me all the things that I wanna hear, 'cause it's true. That's what I like about you. That's what I like about you. That's what I like about you.
This is